Hello everyone, my name is Anitsu and I'm back with another Digimon deck profile video. So today I'm going to be taking a look at Special Booster 1.5, and this is going to be another budget deck in Special Booster 1.5. Just because so many new cards got added to the card pool, we could build a new and interesting deck set with themes we haven't really been playing with before, just because there's enough cards to kind of support those themes, and Cherubimon and a recovery style or security style deck is definitely one of those themes that we could definitely explore, just because Cherubimon is a really interesting Digimon and he has a whole bunch of new support cards to just allow us to build this style of deck. So I am going into this assuming that you have the starter deck, but if you don't have the yellow starter deck, then that's not that big of a deal. You could easily sub out some of the cards with some of the replacements I'll have at the end of the video. But the yellow starter deck is the cheapest among all of the starter decks, so even if you don't have it, you should still be able to pick up the singles no problem. So, going over the deck, starting with the Digitamas, I'm going to be running one copy of Cherubimon. So, Cherubimon is a pretty fantastic Digitama to run in the deck just because it has this great inheritable ability where during the opponent's turn, while this Digimon is suspended, all of your security Digimon get plus 1000 DP. So we are going to be trying to capitalize and utilize Cherubimon's ability, which is a when attacking ability, meaning that Cherubimon is going to be suspended more often than not. So being able to have our security Digimon get buffed for basically free and doing nothing is just really, really good because we're trying to rely on our security to act as our removal, among other things, and this just supports that theme. But the main Digitama of the deck is still going to be 4 copies of Lopmon, just because Lopmon is a really good card because of its inheritable ability of when attacking once per turn. If we have 3 or fewer cards in our security, then we get to draw 1 card, and it's not hard to get to 3 security and maintain a 3 security threshold with this deck, so being able to consistently draw off of Lopmon is definitely really, really valuable. Next, on to the rookies, I'm going to be running 2 copies of Lopmon. So Lopmon is a pretty interesting rookie to fill in the slot just because we are trying to utilize the fact that it has some high DP compared to a lot of other rookies that Yellow currently has access to. And the whole sub-theme of the deck is trying to rely on our security as much as we possibly can to try to act as removal so that way we can recover it and keep ourselves as healthy as possible. And the fact that this is just one of the strongest rookies that we have is the only reason why we're running it. Next, I'm going to be running 4 copies of Ankylomon. So Ankylomon is a really good rookie for the deck because she has this nice on-delete ability where if our security is at 3 or less, then we get to recover 1. So just making sure we have multiple different ways at recovering and keeping our security as healthy as possible is definitely something we really want to do. So this Ankylomon is just really good at fitting that role. Next, I'm going to be running 4 copies of Lopmon. So Lopmon is probably one of the most important rookies in the entire deck just because of how powerful the on-play ability is on the card. So what the on-play ability is we get to look at the top card of our security stack, and then we may add that card to our hand, and then if we do, we get to draw 1 card. So not only does it allow us to draw a card from our security stack, reducing our security when we need to, and adding a card from our security to our hand when we need to, but it also is allowing us to draw a card from our deck, so just all of that together just make this card absolutely insane to play. And then the last rookie of the deck is going to be 4 copies of Ankylomon. So this Ankylomon is from the starter deck, and it's a pretty decent card just because it is a value vanilla rookie, and we still want to play those just because it's a very good efficiency card. Next, onto the champions, I'm going to be running 4 copies of Ankylomon. So Ankylomon is probably one of the other most important Digimon in the entire deck just because it has this really unique security ability where at the end of the battle, if it's checked in the security, then you get to play this card for free. So we are trying to set up our security and we are trying to heal a lot and keep our security as healthy as possible. So when Ankylomon is checked in the security, just being able to get a free body on board just allows us to pressure the opponent that much easier. Next, I'm going to be running 4 copies of Cherubimon. So Cherubimon is a really fantastic Digimon for the deck because it has a really low Evo cost, so that way we could get into our higher stages that much faster and that much more efficient. But on top of it having a low Evo cost, it also has some relatively high DP compared to a lot of other champions that we have access to, and because we are relying on our security Digimon to basically try to act as removal to clear out the opponent's Digimon, then we want to make sure we have some high DP cards in our security. And then the last champion of the deck is going to be 4 copies of Unimon. So Unimon's primary purpose of the deck is just to be the blocker of the deck, but on top of it being a blocker, it also has some relatively high DP compared to a lot of other champions we have access to. Next, on to the ultimates, I'm going to be running 4 copies of Ankylomon. So Ankylomon is another card that has some relatively high DP and a relatively low Evo cost compared to a lot of other Digimon in its level, and for those 2 reasons is why we're running the card, just because it's a great efficiency card, and if it's in our security, the high DP, especially boosted, it definitely can help clear out some of the opponent's Digimon when it's checked in the security. And then the last ultimate of the deck is going to be 4 copies of Ankylomon. So this Ankylomon is from BT-03. So first, it has a really nice when Digivolving ability, where one of our opponent's Digimon gains security attack -2. So giving them security attack -2 just prevents them from trying to hit into our security. So again, just fulfilling that role of trying to keep our security as healthy as possible. And then on top of which, she has a really powerful inheritable ability where it's a when attacking ability. If we have 3 or fewer cards in our security, then we get to play 1 yellow level 3 Digimon from our hand for free. So this allows us to put even more pressure onto the opponent by spawning more bodies, and then we do get their on-play abilities if they have any, or we could just set them up so that way we could utilize them whenever we feel like we need to. So Ankylomon is just an absolutely insane card for the deck to run just because of all of the potential this card has. Next, on to the Megas, I'm going to be running 1 copy of Magnetramon. So Magnetramon is a pretty interesting card for the deck to be running just because she has this really great on-play ability where if we have 3 or fewer cards in our security, then we get to recover 2. So again, the whole goal of the deck is to try to maintain as healthy of a security stack as we possibly can. So Magnetramon just being able to recover us 2 is really, really good because it helps us win that war of attrition if we need to. And then on top of which, she has a really powerful when attacking ability that's basically the exact same as Ankylomon from BT-03's inheritable ability, where we could just play a level 3 yellow Digimon for free. Next, I'm going to be running 4 copies of Ophanimon. So Ophanimon is a pretty interesting Digimon to be running with the deck just because of its high synergy with the deck. So what this card is doing is has a very interesting on-delete ability where we get to put this card on the top of our security stack face down. So the whole idea about the card is we're going to basically just try to swing into the opponent's security until she basically dies from a security check, and then she'll be basically recovering us 1 with her acting as the recovery card, and because we know she's going to be the top card of our security stack, then we could do some really interesting things, like we could use Lopmon to add her back to our hand if we really need to, or we could just leave her there as a threat so that way the opponent knows that she's also going to be there, so they have to figure out how to play around her if they don't want their Digimon being deleted. And then the last Mega of the deck is going to be the main Mega, which is going to be 4 copies of Cherubimon. So Cherubimon is a very fantastic Mega to be playing around with for this style of deck because he has this really powerful when attacking ability where if we have 3 or fewer security cards, then we get to place 1 yellow Digimon from our trash on top of our security stack face down. So the big combo with this card is we are going to try to utilize and maximize Ankylomon's security ability to just constantly play Ankylomon from our trash basically because we'll use Cherubimon to swing, put Ankylomon on top of our security stack from our trash, and then when they attack, Ankylomon comes out, we could use Ankylomon to swing at their security, hopefully he'll get deleted, and then use Cherubimon's ability to just put him back on the top of our security stack, so that way we can rinse and repeat the cycle all over again. But we could use Cherubimon's ability in some really interesting ways in combination with something like Lopmon, where we have the information on what's going to be on the top of our security stack. So we could use Lopmon to add it back to our hand, and then we could then try to set up Cherubimon's ability again. So Cherubimon is just an absolutely insane Digimon to be running just because of all of the potential this card has. Next, onto the option cards, I'm going to be running 2 copies of Eden's Javelin. So Eden's Javelin is just one of the more powerful removal cards that we have access to at this time. So what this card is doing, it has the main ability of allowing us to draw 1 card. And then after we draw that 1 card, we get to minus 1000 DP on one of the opponent's Digimon for each card that we have in our hand. So if we have, let's just say, 7 cards in our hand, then we're going to be minusing 7,000 one of the opponent's Digimon, and that's just a pretty decent ability to have, and then on top of which it has a really great security ability of activating its main effect. So we're not exactly super draw heavy in the deck, but we do have ways to fill up our hand, and we could still utilize Eden's Javelin to clear out a lot of potential threats. But the main removal card of the deck is going to be 2 copies of Seven Heavens. So Seven Heavens is just a more statically good removal option, just because it has the main ability of one of the opponent's Digimon gets minus 10,000 DP for the turn. So this can clear out a decent number of Digimon, and as such it's the main removal option of the deck, just because it's more consistent than Eden's Javelin, and then it has the nice security ability of activating its main effect, which we could then rig because we are trying to recover a decent amount, so there's a decent chance that this or Eden's Javelin could be in the security to utilize their effects with. And then the last card of the deck is going to be the only tamer of the deck, and that is going to be 3 copies of TK. So this TK comes from the starter deck, and it's a very efficient tamer card to play just because it has a really low play cost, and then on top of which it has a really powerful ability that synergizes with the deck, where during the opponent's turn, all of our security Digimon get plus 2000 DP. So if we have a couple of TK stacked on the field, it could really make something like an Ophanimon that much more threatening in the security, just because if we have, let's just say, 1 TK on the field, Ophanimon will already be 13k in security. Then if we have a Cherubimon suspended, and we have Nyarmon under him, then that's an additional 1,000, and that's not including any other TKs that could be on the field. So this is just a really good tamer to be running with the deck, just because we are trying to make our security Digimon as powerful as we possibly can. But there's just a whole bunch of other tools that you could think about utilizing with the deck, depending on what you want to gain out of the deck. So if you want more card draw, then you could think about running Cherubimon, just because, again, we do have ways to consistently keep our security as healthy as possible. So it's not like it's impossible to get the draw off of Cherubimon. And because we are also trying to maintain a healthy security, we could run something like a Gatomon, where this promo Gatomon gives us 1000 DP for having 3 or more security. So that way it makes our megas that much more powerful. Then we also could think about running something like Ankylomon from the starter deck just to gain some additional memory, because again, it's not going to be hard to have 4 or more security to activate its effect. Then if we want just another generically decent DP booster and a card to recover us, Magna Angemon is very, very good at doing both of those. If we want just another really powerful card just to sit in our security, then Ankylomon is definitely really good, just because for a level 5, she has some really high DP. Then you could think about running something like a Shikuomon just to sit passively on the field, to just give all of the opponent's Digimon a debuff of security tech -1 if they don't have any Digivolution sources, keeping our security that much more healthy. And then because he does also count as a blue card during our turn while he's on the field, then we do have access to playing cards like Kaisernail to do some really interesting things with. You could also think about running the Ankylomon from the starter deck, where if you feel like you want the recovery over the security tech minus, then this Ankylomon definitely is really, really nice. Then we could also think about playing cards like Mastimon, where Mastimon is just a very powerful card at being able to remove the top card of both of our security stacks, so it allows us to aggress it that much more easier. On top of which, she is also going to be spawning a level 4 body, putting that much more pressure onto the opponent, and taking away cards from our security stack isn't necessarily the worst thing in the world, because it allows us to use our abilities to recover again. You could also think about running something like Seraphimon just for his when Digivolving being able to recover, thus keeping our security as healthy as possible still. And then while we have 3 or more security, then he's also going to gain security tech plus. The only thing I really don't like about this card is the fact that he has low DP, but if you're just trying to utilize him to recover, then he's really good at doing that. And then you could also run something like a Kentarosmon, just because Kentarosmon's really good at trying to stall out the board state, so that way you could aggress it that much easier onto the opponent. Just because of his when Digivolving ability, up to 5 of the opponent's Digimon will get security attack -2, so basically just locks them out from trying to be able to attack our security for a turn. And then he has another good on delete ability, making him a very aggressive Mega to be running, because we want to get that on delete ability off to -1 of the opponent's Digimon by 11,000 DP. We could also think about running the option card of Holy Wave, just because Holy Wave allows us to recover 1, and then its security ability allows us to recover 1, so that way we can just keep as healthy of a security as we possibly can. Or if you want to go for something a little bit more interesting and a little bit more spicy, you could think about running Heaven's Gate, because this is a DP boost card, and we do not have very efficient ways to DP boost our Digimon. So making sure that our Digimon can hit over specific numbers is very, very powerful already. And then on top of that, it has this absolutely insane security ability, where all of our Digimon on the field and in our security get plus 5,000 DP for the turn, and we get to add this card back to our hand. So not only is this basically boosting all of the Digimon on our field, it's also boosting all of the Digimon in our security stack, making it that much more dangerous for the opponent to attack into. And we still get to add this card to our hand, so that way we could use it when we feel like we need to. And then if you want to run some of the other tamers, you have the liberty of running the other tamers. So the TK from BT-01 is absolutely insane with this deck, just because he is a memory fixing tamer, so that way we can always make sure our plays are as efficient as they possibly can be when he's on the field. And then he has this really good on play ability, where we get to look at our security stack, add 1 card among it to our hand, and then if that card was yellow, then we get to recover 1. So with this style of deck, because we're always going to be adding cards into our security, being able to look at our security and shuffle our security and add cards from our security to our hand are all very, very powerful things that we want to be doing. And then you also could think about running the Kari, where she just will passively gain us a memory as long as we have 3 or fewer security, which isn't necessarily the hardest thing in the world to set up or maintain. So playing Kari is just really good. And then you could also think about running a little bit of the Shine Greymon package if you really feel like it, just to try to play more tamers and make our tamers as efficiently as possible. But I feel like that's not exactly what the deck is trying to go for, just because of the megas we want to be playing around with. But again, taking a Shine Greymon sub-route is definitely a viable option as well. So for the most part, this is just what I think the deck is going to be doing, especially on a budget. Cherubimon is definitely a really interesting Digimon to be playing around with, just because messing around with the security is definitely a very unique aspect to yellow that basically no other color can do, and Cherubimon is definitely a really interesting card to be messing around with the security with, just because we have ways to add it alternately than recovering, and we have ways of taking it out or reducing our security. So this is just a really interesting deck to play around with, and a lot of the cards are very cheap and affordable, so you should be able to build the deck relatively easily and relatively cheaply. That's all I really have for this video. As always, I'll have the deck listed down in the description below, and down in the description below will also be my TCG Player affiliate link, so when you use that link to buy cards off of TCG Player, then some of that money will go to supporting me and the channel. And as always, feel free to tell me your thoughts down in the comments below, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more content, and I'll see you in the next video.